starting 11 is the perfect daily companion to your season-long FPL squad, whether you're at the top or bottom of your mini-league table. Welcome to the Game Week 4 team selection. The Wildcard is in play for the FPLtips team, allowing unlimited transfers until the Game Week 4 deadline. There have been a couple of key changes made since the previous video, so here's a look at how the current Wildcard squad is shaping up. Ben Foster remains in goal, with fixtures against Brighton, West Ham and Watford coming up over the next month. Swansea goalkeeper Lucas Fabianski is an alternative, and certainly has the better upcoming fixtures. But there are nailed-on Swansea defenders available for 4.5 million, whereas at West Brom, you really have to spend 5 million for Craig Dawson to get a secure pick from their back line. The starting back three is unchanged from the previous video, with Cedric Soares, Phil Jones and Ben Mee lining up for Game Week 4. Check out last week's Wildcard draft video for a more detailed look at why those defenders were chosen. There is one change to the starting midfield, with Tom Carroll potentially returning to the starting lineup for Game Week 4, ahead of his home fixture against Newcastle. It isn't ideal to be starting a 4.5 million player as the fourth midfielder, but Swansea have a promising run of upcoming fixtures, which could just about make it viable in the short term. They face home fixtures against Newcastle, Watford, Huddersfield, Leicester and Brighton over the next 8 game weeks. While Swansea have strengthened in midfield during the transfer window, and Carroll now faces more competition for his starting place, he has played a vital role on set pieces in the first 3 game weeks of the season, taking all 4 of their corners so far. Hopefully his set piece taking abilities will see him maintain his starting place for now, but the extra competition is something that needs to be monitored. Paul Pogba is the man who unfortunately will make way, and this downgrade was made in order to free up cash for the forward line. It remains a tough decision to choose between the 2 Manchester United midfielders. Pogba is certainly the most nailed on, and that will be especially important once the Champions League begins. But Mkhitaryan has played an important role so far this season. As well as leading the way with his 5 assists, his incredible underlying creative stats can't be overlooked. He's produced more attempted assists than any other player in the Premier League. Another ongoing dilemma is between the Spurs midfielders, in Dele Alli and Christian Eriksen. Both are fantastic options, and there are pros and cons to each. For example, Dele Alli is suspended for the first 3 Champions League matches, and that should ensure that he stays fit and well rested for the Premier League games. However, Eriksen seems to be in the form of his life right now. He's been involved in 3 of the 4 Spurs goals so far, and provided 2 goals and 4 assists in 2 games for Denmark over the international break. The big change up front, as you might expect, is that Romelu Lukaku returns. In the previous draft, West Ham's Chicharito was the man who was set to take the 3rd striker role, but the downgrade of Pogba to Carroll in midfield helps us to afford the big Belgian. In terms of value, there's a lot you can do if you do decide to go with Pogba over Lukaku, and that is certainly an option worth considering. The issue, however, is that Lukaku is the most owned player in the game and offers a safe captain option, particularly in the upcoming game week where there are no other standout options. So whilst it is a compromise to give Tom Carroll a starting place, it's a lot safer to make that compromise with the 4th midfielder than with the most owned forward in the game, during a game week where he'll be the favourite captain option. Elsewhere up front, Harry Kane and Roberto Firmino keep their places. And once again, you can check out last week's Wildcard draft video for a more detailed look at why they were selected. There is also one minor change on the bench, with Ahmed Hegazi being downgraded to Chancel Mbemba. Yes, it's unlikely that the Newcastle defender will keep his starting position in the long term, but he has done well at left back since coming into the team to cover for injuries, so there is a chance that Rafa Benitez will reward him with another start or 2. The only time in the near future that we'd really need to start Mbemba is in Game Week 5, when Newcastle host Stoke, so hopefully he can keep hold of his starting place until then. But that might be a long shot, given that a couple of the injured Newcastle defenders have now returned to training. Another point worth noting is that Hegazi himself faces competition for his starting place. West Brom recently signed Kieran Gibbs from Arsenal, Johnny Evans returned from injury to feature for his country over the international break, and Gareth McCauley is also set to return to training this week. There is the option of starting Kyle Norton ahead of Tom Carroll in Game Week 4 and going to a 4-3-3 formation. It's a home game against Newcastle for Swansea, so perhaps there is a good chance of a clean sheet, and that is something to be considered. The main reason for making these changes is of course to be able to select Romelu Lukaku for captaincy. There are no standout picks this week, but with an ownership of over 58%, there is likely to be a lot of interest in the Manchester United forward, and so the safest move is to stick with him. Jose Mourinho's side are away to Stoke in Game Week 4, which isn't an easy fixture on paper, but with 10 goals scored and 0 conceded in the Premier League, you have to fancy their chances to get a result. Follow FPLtips on Twitter to be notified of any updates to the team in advance of the Game Week deadline. Welcome to the future of fantasy football with Starting 11. Build an 11-player roster during the week, but with Starting 11, your experience doesn't stop when the real-life matches begin. Instead, Starting 11 lets you make up to 3 substitutions to your fantasy squad during live play, just like a real manager. So if a player's having an off day, you can instantly replace him with a player who's looking more lively in-game. No more helplessly watching your lineup, and hours of research and planning get destroyed by injuries or poor form. Starting 11 is available right now, with free-to-enter contests for the Premier League, and is the perfect companion to your season-long FPL squad, whether you are at the top or bottom of your mini-league table. The link to download the app is in the description box below.